Hello students, welcome to Shubhra Ranjan IAS. As a part of the test series discussion, this is the test number 17 relating to the economy of Odisha. So here what we'll do is, we'll first look at the statements, then we'll look at the examination approach on how you would have solved this question in the exam conditions. Then we'll briefly discuss the concept about the question and quickly recall the concept whatever is related. So let us begin with question number 1. Which of the following activities is part of the Odisha's GDP? Number 1, economic activities of the residents of Odisha. Number 2, purchase of movie tickets by the foreigners in Odisha. Number 3, exports by the state of Odisha. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So here it is asking about the concept of GDP but with respect to only Odisha. Now what is GDP? It is the value of all the goods and services produced within a particular territory for a particular given period of time. And it doesn't matter whether the production is through the residents or through the foreigners, nationals or the foreigners. The only thing that matters is the production should happen within the territory. For example, if you are looking about India, so when we consider GDP, we consider both the production by the Indians and the foreigners residing within the boundaries of India. So in this context, let us look at Odisha as if it is a independent territory and consider the GDP calculation. Economic activities of the residents of Odisha. So yeah, definitely the economic activities of the residents within Odisha, it will be considered. So that is correct. Purchase of movie tickets by the foreigners in Odisha. It doesn't matter whether it is the nationals or the foreigners, because the purchase of movie tickets is happening within the territory of Odisha. It will be considered in the GDP of Odisha. So this is also correct. Exports by the state of Odisha. So if you remember the expenditure method, where the formula is consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus net exports. So this next exports is nothing but exports minus imports. So exports are also part of the GDP calculation. So whatever here Odisha sends and exports to other states like Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh, that will be calculated as a part of the GDP of Odisha. So that is also correct. So for the question number 1, all three are correct. Hence the correct option is D. Now let us move to question number 2. Consider the following statements regarding the Odisha's GDP. Again, this is also regarding the GDP concept. It is the value added by all the firms in the state. It is the final value of goods and services produced in the state. It is the sum total of final consumption and investment expenditure by the government, private and household sector. It is the income received by the four factors of production. Select the correct answers using the code given below and we have different options. Now if you look at this question is asking about the GDP definition itself but through different methods. Now the statement 1 says it is the value added by all the firms in the state. So through the value addition method, we calculate the GDP by considering the value added. So hence this statement is correct. It is the final value of all the goods and services produced in the state. We just discussed that GDP is the final value of all the goods and services produced within the country for a particular period of time. So here with respect to Odisha, it is state. So this is also correct. It is the sum total of all the final consumption and investment expenditure by the government, private and household sector. So this is trying to talk about the expenditure method of GDP calculation. But if you look at it closely, here earlier we discussed that in the expenditure method, the GDP is calculated by saying CHIGSM, that is consumption, investment, government expenditure and net exports, that is export minus import. But in this statement, there is no mention about exports or imports. So this is incomplete even though it is partially correct. So let us keep it on hold for now. And the fourth statement says that it is the income received by the four factors of production. So GDP through the income approach is the income received by the four factors of production. So that is also correct. So if you see here, this question is talking about the different methods of calculation of GDP. And the only wrong answer here is the third one pertaining to the expenditure method, because the formula is incomplete. The statement is incomplete. So this is the incorrect statement. And what is the question asking us? Select the correct answer with respect to Odisha's GDP. So only 3 is wrong. So there is no 3 in this option. So option C is the correct answer for question number 2. Let us move to question number 3. Which of the following is not counted in Odisha's GDP calculation? Select the correct answer using the code given below. So if you carefully observe, if the question is asking which of the following will be counted. The question is asking which of the following will not be counted. So you have to be very careful. So first let us see if the informal sector activity will be calculated under GDP or not. See, for GDP calculation, it doesn't matter whether it is a formal sector or the informal sector. All it matters is the production of goods and services should happen within the territory of the country. So for the formal sector, the collection of data will be easy. But for the informal sector, the collection of data will not be easy. We won't get direct data because it is difficult to collect somebody who is not registered under the government portals or who is not into the mainstream businesses. So here the government will do estimations, surveys, and finally compile the data. But ultimately, informal sector activity will also be calculated in the GDP, whether it is through estimation or surveys. So it doesn't matter even if they don't have the direct collection of data. We are estimating the data and we are counting it in the informal sector activity. Re-exports. What is re-export? If this is India, okay. Re-export is when, say we are trying to get something, import something from Japan. We did little or no value addition to it and export it to say something like to a country like Saudi Arabia. So we are importing a good, working on it little, and then we are exporting it. That is why it says re-export. So will that be calculated under GDP calculation? See, when we import something, the profit margin will be added, or there will be some packaging change, or there will be slight value addition. So all of these are economic activities, right? Even though there is some small addition happening. So that way, re-exports are also part of the GDP calculation. So both of them will be included under GDP calculation. But like I said, you have to be careful about what the question is asking. It is not asking us what will be counted. It is asking us what will not be counted. Because they both will be counted, the correct answer is neither one nor two for question number 3. Now let us look at question number 4. If Odisha is experiencing economic growth, then which of the following statements must hold true? So the keywords being if Odisha is experiencing economic growth, which of the following are true? The real GSDP will increase, nominal GSDP will increase, rate of growth of real GSDP will increase in employment generation. Select the correct answer. So when we say that the growth is happening in Odisha, so what should happen? Let us look at let us look at the options one by one. First, the first option, the real GSDP will increase. When we say the real gross state domestic product, it means that there is no inflation component. Then we are calculating the values at the constant prices. So it does indicate the economic growth. So we'll keep this option for hold for some time. Now the nominal GSDP will increase. If the nominal GSDP is increasing, It can be either because of increase in the quantity of production, or it can also be either because of increase in the inflation of goods and services. Because in the nominal GSDP, even the inflation component will be considered. So if the growth happens only because of increase in the inflation component, but there is no actual increase in the quantity, so then the growth doesn't reflect the actual growth. So that way, this nominal GSDP won't reflect the true economic picture. Okay. Coming to statement number 3, the rate of growth of real GSDP will increase. So read it carefully. The rate of growth of real GSDP will increase. They are not saying real GSDP will increase. This is the absolute number. They are saying the rate percentage change of the growth of the real GSDP that will increase. Let us take a numerical example for it to understand. Say for example, if the real GSDP of Odisha for a particular year, let us take it as 100 billion. For year 2, let us consider it will increase to 110 billion. Okay, for year 3, let us take it will increase to 115 billion. Okay, so now when we have to calculate the rate of growth, we have to calculate year on year increase. Okay, so what will be the growth rate for increase from the first year to second year? It will be 110 minus 100 divided by 100 into 100. That comes to 10% growth rate. Then if you take the growth rate for the year 2 to year 3, it will be 115 minus 110 divided by 110 into 100. That comes to approx 4.5 something percentage. So if you see here, in terms of the absolute value, from 100 billion to 110 billion, the real GSDP is increasing. Again, from 110 billion to 115 billion, the real GSDP is increasing. But is the growth rate increasing? No. The growth rate has increased initially by 10 percentage. Then the growth rate has increased only by 4.5 percentage. So in fact here the growth rate has fallen even though there is increase in the real GSDP, because the absolute number increase was little compared to the previous year. So this statement which says the real growth of real GSDP will increase is not true, because here we just saw even though there is increase in the absolute numbers, the growth rate has not increased. So the growth rate will be less sometimes also. So the option 3 also doesn't reflect the true picture of economic growth. Increase in unemployment generation. It is not necessary that because the economic growth is happening, the employment will always be generated. Okay, like we said, because of the inflation, the growth can keep happening. So in that case, the employment generation need not happen. So this is also not conclusive. Now what is left? The only first statement which says that real GSDP will increase. So when the real GSDP will increase, we can say conclusively that the economic growth has increased. So our correct option will be only one, option A, for the question number 4. Okay, let us move on to question number 5. Welfare of the people of a state is best represented by which of the following parameter? So the welfare of the person in a state is best represented by which one? Per capita income at constant prices, per capita income at current prices, per capita GSDP at constant prices, per capita GSDP at current prices. Now we need to understand the distinction between growth and development. Growth is increase in GDP, but development is not just that. Development will consider even the other qualitative factors. It is growth plus other increase in the qualitative factors like increase in literacy, increase in the standard of living, increase in the education of vulnerable section, increase in the incomes of the vulnerable sections. So all of this will be included in the development. So the welfare of a person can be actually seen by development, because there can be a situation where the GDP of a country is increasing, but if the incomes doesn't trickle down to say the lower rung of the society, to the vulnerable section, to the poor people, only the rich are getting richer and the poor are still remaining poor. So in that case, the welfare of everyone in the state is not increasing. So this question is about the distinction between the growth and the development. Now in that context, let us look at this question: the per capita income at the constant prices. Here there are two variables. One is per capita income at the individual level, versus at the state level. And the second variable is constant price versus the current price. The constant prices take the real picture. They show the real picture because we remove the inflation component from it. The current prices are the market prices. They have the inflation component within them. So they don't give the true picture of growth. We just discussed that in the previous question. Again, the per capita is talking at the individual level, at the state level. Now, a situation number A, the statement number A says per capita income is increasing at the constant prices. The income of the individual is increasing at the constant prices. So it is a good thing. Yeah, so then we can say that welfare is happening. So option 2 says the income is increasing at the current prices. No, here the inflation component also might be there. So then actually the income might increase, but only because of the inflation. So there is no actual welfare happening. So this is not the best representation of the true picture of the welfare. So option B is wrong. And the option C and D talk about constant prices and current prices, but at the state level. Like I said, if the growth is happening at the state level, but the rich are getting richer and the poor remain poor, then the actual welfare of the people is not happening. So these both also don't give the true picture. And what gives the actual best parameter? It is the option number A, per capita income at the constant prices. Okay, let us move to question number 6. Economic growth in Odisha will necessarily have to occur if, so this is the keyword, will necessarily have to occur if there is technological progress, there is population growth, there is capital formation, the country's exports are increasing. So if Odisha gets good technology, can you say that the economic growth of Odisha will happen? Maybe yes, maybe no. Why? Because even though we have say good technology, but if the skill set of the people is not matching the technological progress, if the people are not skilled enough to efficiently use the technology and produce goods and services, in such a case, it's a demographic disaster and ineffective use of technology, because the technology is there, but the people of Odisha don't know how to use the technology. So in that case, will economic growth happen? No, it won't happen. There is population growth in the country, or population growth in Odisha. So if the population of Odisha increases, can we say that the economic growth will happen? No, the population growth can either become demographic dividend if utilized properly, or it can become demographic disaster if the population are not skilled and not utilized properly. So will population growth will lead to economic growth necessarily? Not necessarily. So this is also wrong. There is capital formation in the country. What is capital formation? It is the investment into land, building, capital, plant and machinery, and all this capital goods. So when there are capital goods, it leads to production of more consumption goods. So then consumption goods will lead to the more factor income. More factor income will lead to more demand. More demand means more production. So that way capital goods will lead to a cumulative effect in the economy. So that way the growth will happen. So this seems correct. We'll keep it on hold for now. the country's exports are increasing. Can we say that just because the exports are increasing, the growth will happen? Not necessarily. So the best option here is option number C. The economic growth in Odisha will necessarily occur if there is capital formation in the country or in the state. Let us move on to next question, question number 7. Consider the following statements. Agriculture and allied sectors constitute nearly 22% of the GSVA, gross state value addition. The sector employs more than 40% of the workforce, thus being the biggest employment generating sector in Odisha. Which of the following statements are correct? And we have options. So what the question is saying, agriculture and allied sector constitute nearly 22% in the gross state value addition, and this sector is employing more than 40% of the workforce and is the biggest employment generating sector of Odisha. This is from the economic survey of Odisha. Odisha, majority of the people, they are still dependent on the agriculture. So if you look at the breakup from the economic survey, in the agriculture and allied sector, the contrary to GSVA is around 22.5 percentage, and the industrial sector contributes around 43.2 percentage, and services contribute around 36 percentage. These are approximate percentages which I took. So if you look at this data, this 22.5 percentage is matching with this statement. So this statement is correct. And the statement 2 also regarding this is correct, because more than 40% of the workforce is employed in agriculture, and that is why it is the biggest employment generating sector of Odisha. So the correct answer is, which of the following are correct? Both are correct. So option C, both 1 and 2 correct. Let us move on to next question. Consider the following statements. Odisha's per capita income was 32% lower than India's per capita income. Within the gap of 7 years, the gap is reduced to 11% in 2023. Odisha's per capita income has grown at the compound annual growth rate of 10.9%. Again, this statement is also from the economic survey. Earlier, the Odisha's per capita income was very low, and later on, because of the initiatives of the state government and various poverty removal measures and the income improvement measures and the schemes by the state government, the per capita income of Odisha kept increasing. And finally, the gap has reduced to a great extent. And the per capita income, which was earlier 32% lower than the national average, now the gap has reduced in the 7 years to 11.7 percentage in 22-23. So this is also mentioned in the economic survey, and both of the statements are correct. So the option is both 1 and 2. When you're studying the economic survey, you need to focus on such kind of facts where they are comparing with the national average and how the state has performed. So that is why these are being put in the test series. With reference to question number 9, with reference to the labor force participation in Odisha, consider the following statements. Statement 1, 72% of the 1.75 crore working population are unorganized workers. The data is from Census 2011 and Labor Directorate estimates. So what it is saying, out of the 7.5 crore working population of Odisha, the majority, 72% of them are in the unorganized sector. Then the second statement says that the state government is implementing the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008 and the Odisha Unorganized Workers Social Security Board, which was constituted in the 2011, is working in the state for the benefit of workers in the unorganized sector. Let us look at the options. Select the incorrect answer. So again, you have to be very careful. You might be very familiar with the questions. Okay, you might be familiar with the answer, but if you don't read the question carefully, instead of marking the incorrect, you will end up marking the correct and your question will go wrong. So be very careful and calm when you are reading the statements. Even though you know the answer, even though you initially get the answer, try to completely read the question once or twice. Okay, now let us solve this question. The approx population of Odisha is around 4.2 crores as per the 2011 census. Out of that, the working population is around 1.75 crores. Out of the working population, the majority of the people, almost 92% of the people, are in the unorganized sector. So the 1.75 crore data is matching, but the data of 72 percentage, that is not matching. This is wrong. So instead of 92, the question is asking 72. So this is incorrect. Now statement number 2. The state is implementing the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008 and the Odisha Unorganized Workers Social Security Board, which was constituted in 2011. They are working for the benefit of workers in unorganized sector. This statement is correct. This Social Security Board for the unorganized workers was indeed established in 2011 and it is working for the benefit of unorganized sector workers. So this statement is correct. So if we go back to the options, the option is asking us which of the following are incorrect. So only option statement 1 was incorrect. So the correct answer is option A for question number 9. Let's come to question number 10. With reference to human resource development in Odisha, consider the following statements. From 2021, the Odisha Labour Welfare Board is implementing a scholarship scheme for the meritorious children who whose kids are contributor employees under the Odisha Labour Welfare Board. So what this statement is saying, the Labour Welfare Board, it has come up with a scholarship scheme for whom? For the kids of those people who are contributing to the Labour Welfare Board's scheme. So basically kids of the labor in Odisha. Statement 2 says, under this scheme, one-time scholarship of 1 lakh rupees will be provided to those who have successfully enrolled for graduation or post-graduation and they have qualified the examinations of reputed government institution. The statement 3 says, the objective of the scheme is to encourage them to pursue the quality, technical and professional courses. So which of the following is incorrect? So again, you have to be very careful. The question is asking about the incorrect statement. So this is correct. The Odisha Welfare Board, Labour Welfare Board indeed started a scholarship scheme for the kids of the labor who are contributing to the Labour Welfare Board and they're going to provide 1 lakh scheme. So this is also correct where the kids will get the 1 lakh scholarship for enrolling into the graduation and the post-graduation level. And the objective of the scheme is to encourage them to pursue quality and technical and professional courses. So this is also correct. So which of the following is incorrect? None of the above is incorrect. So option for number 4. It should not be neither or nor, it should be none of the above. None of the above is incorrect because all the statements are correct. We will also look at a similar scheme which has been started. It is known as the Nirman Shramik Kalyan Yojana. So this is also a scholarship scheme. So under this scheme, it doesn't matter whether you are a SC/ST or a OBC or a general candidate, as long as you are meritorious, you are going to get some scholarship. So you have to be a permanent resident of Odisha for this scheme, and you have to secure a minimum of 60% marks in the previous qualifying exam for the merit scholarship. And here you will get a scholarship amount up to 40,000 rupees depending on the level of education. For example, for class 6 to 7, the annual benefit is around 2000 rupees. But when it is for post graduation courses and graduation courses like BCA, MBA, BArch, and professional courses like BTech, the scholarship is amount is up to 40,000 also. So the amount ranges from 2000 to 40,000. And this scheme is also by the Odisha Labour Welfare Board only. So that is why I have added this scheme in the related information. Okay. Now let us move on to the next question. Question number 11. Fiscal deficit in Odisha is one of the lowest in the country. With reference to this, which of the following statements is true regarding the fiscal deficit? So the question is asking about the fiscal deficit concept. It is the difference between government total expenditure and its total receipts except the borrowing. It is the difference between government's revenue expenditure and revenue receipts. It is the difference between government's capital expenditure and capital receipts, and none of the above. So what is the meaning of fiscal deficit? So fiscal deficit is the difference between the government's total expenditure and the total receipts excluding the borrowings. In simple terms, it shows that how much of the government spending is more than the government revenue excluding the borrowings. So it shows that how much the government will actually need to borrow so that it can meet its expenditure. Now let us look at the statements again. It is a difference between government's total expenditure and the total receipts except the borrowing. So this statement is exactly syncing with our discussion. So this is correct as of now. Let's keep it on hold. It is the difference between government's revenue expenditure and revenue receipt. The difference between revenue expenditure and revenue receipt is revenue deficit, not fiscal deficit. The difference between capital expenditure and capital receipt. Again, this is talking about only the capital component. Like this point talked about the revenue component. So that is also wrong. So the correct option is option number A, which is the exact definition of fiscal deficit. Let's move on to next question. Question number 12. In the year 2022-23, April to December, the inflation in Odisha went up to 6.56%, but lower than the neighboring states' average of 7.24%. With reference to the inflation, consider the following statements. They have given four statements, and which of the following is or are likely to be the most inflationary in effect? So you see, this statement was just a context statement. It is not even relevant to the question if you observe. And then the question is asking about inflation, and then it is asking about which of the following will cause most inflation in the effect. So repayment of public debt. Now look at it from this point of each of the statement. If the government replaces the public debt, what will happen? The money supply which was earlier there from the people, the government has taken it. Now the government is repaying the public debt to the people. So is there any increase in the money supply as such, which was there earlier? It got sucked out. So the money supply is increasing, but there is no additional creation of money supply as such, as if it is going to happen if we are creating, say, new money. So this doesn't cause the most inflation. It can cause some inflation. Borrowing from the public to finance a budget deficit. If the government issues the bonds and borrows money from the public, So what is the government doing? The government is sucking out the money from the public and taking it to its treasury. So that way the money supply is actually reducing in the market. So will that cause inflation? No, it is the opposite. The borrowings from the banks to finance a budget deficit. So here again it can cause little inflation, but it won't cause the most inflation. Let's look at the point number 4. Creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. If the money is created, so there is some new money supply which is going to come. So all these cases, the money supply which was there in the economy already, it kept getting circulated from the bank to the government to the people. So this was happening, but in this case there is some additional money supply which is coming out of nowhere into the economy, because the government is creating some money and pumping it into the market by printing new notes. So this will cause most inflation because there is more money supply. So if there is more money supply, people have more disposable income. If there is more disposable income, the demand will increase. The demand will increase, the prices will tremendously increase. So that will cause inflation. So the key point being, which of the following causes the most inflation? That is option number C. 4. Creation of new money will cause the most inflation. Let's move on to next question. Question number 13. Consider the following statements regarding the gross value addition in the agriculture and allied sectors in Odisha. So it is talking about the agriculture and allied sector in Odisha. The share of agriculture and allied sector gross value addition at current prices stood at 22.5%. Sometime back in the previous question, we did discuss that agriculture and allied sector contributes almost 22.5% to the Odisha's economy. So this is correct option. Between 2011 and 22-23, the share of agriculture and allied sectors has increased from 17.9% to 22.5%. This is also a correct fact which was picked up from the economic survey. The share of allied agriculture and allied sector has in fact increased from 2011 to 22-23 in the past one decade. The share of livestock and fisheries in the value addition has slightly increased between 11-12 and 22-23, indicating the success of the government's efforts to promote these subsectors. Yes, it was clearly mentioned in the economic survey. The share of livestock and fisheries has increased because of the government's efforts to promote these three subsectors. So this is also a correct statement. So the question is asking which of the following is correct. Select the correct answers. Only one, only two, only three. All three are correct. So the correct option is option C. Coming to question number 14. Which of the following is not a factor of production? Again, be careful. The question is asking about not a factor of production. The four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and the fourth one being organization or entrepreneurship. You can call it anyways. So land is there, labor is there, capital is there, none. So which of the following is not a factor? None. This is the wrong answer. So this is the correct answer for the question. Very simple question, conceptual question. Question number 15. With reference to the cropping patterns in Odisha, consider the following statements. Cereals are the dominant crops in the state, accounting for almost 52% of the gross cropped area. The gross cropped area under the non-paddy cereals has increased by 7.56% over the previous years, whereas the crop area under paddy has decreased by 1.5% in the same period. Which of the following statements are true? Statement 1 says cereals are a dominant crop in the state, accounting for almost 52% of the cropped area. So cropped area is for how many hectares or acres this particular crop is planted in the state. And in Odisha, being agrarian economy, like we discussed in the previous questions, the majority of the crop area is for utilized for the cereals. So this statement is correct. And the statement 2 talks about the further analysis, which says that the gross cropped area under non-paddy cereals has increased by 7.56, whereas the gross cropped area under paddy has slightly decreased. So within the cereals, the non-paddy, for them the cropped area is increased, but for the paddy component, the gross cropped area is slightly decreased. So this is also specifically mentioned in the survey, and this is also correct. So which of the following statements are correct? Both the statements are correct. So hence the option is option number C. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Let us move on to next question. Excuse me. With regards to the Kalia scheme, consider the following statements. It's a central sector scheme. Its aim is to accelerate agriculture prosperity and reduce poverty. Kalia scheme supports the farmers farming on a small scale, sharecropping, fishing, animal herding, and those who are not covered under bank loans. Select the correct code for the given below. Okay. Now let us look at this Kalia scheme. The Odisha government started this Kalia scheme. This is not your Chota Bhim Kalia. Here Kalia means Krushak assistance for livelihood and income augmentation. So Kalia means Krushak assistance for livelihood and income augmentation. So the aim of this scheme is the Odisha government wanted to increase the agricultural prosperity and reduce the poverty among the farmers. So that is why this scheme was started. They wanted a viable alternative for farm loan waivers and such, and also give a income to farmer so that the poverty among farmers can reduced. And what are the provisions of this scheme? For the cultivators, the farmers will be given almost up to 10,000 rupees per family for cultivation, and 5,000 rupees will be given during the Kharif season, and 5,000 will be given during the Rabi season, so that they can use this amount for all purchasing the agricultural inputs like pesticides and fertilizers, etc. And the crop loans will be given interest free, and who are all covered under this scheme? The small and marginal farmers, landless agricultural households, vulnerable agricultural households, landless agricultural laborers, sharecroppers, all the vulnerable section of the farming community, everyone is included in the Kalia scheme. Now let us go back to our question. Statement 1. It is a central sector scheme. See, very statement 1 is wrong because this is not a central sector scheme. This is launched by the state. This is a state government's specific scheme. So statement 1 is incorrect. The aim of the scheme is to accelerate agriculture prosperity and reduce poverty. This is not property, this is poverty. The aim of the scheme is to accelerate agriculture prosperity and reduce poverty. So we just saw that that is correct. Kalia scheme supports farmers farming on small scale, sharecropping, fishing, animal herding, and those who are not covered under bank loan. So this is also correct. So select the correct code. Only one, only two, only three, and none. So first statement was incorrect. Two statements are correct. So that makes B, only two, the correct answer. With reference to the MSPs, consider the following statements. MSPs are announced by the Government of India at the beginning of sowing season for certain crops based on the recommendation of CACP. Government announces MSP for 22 mandated crops and FRP for sugarcane. The mandated crops include 14 Kharif crops, 6 Rabi crops, and 2 commercial crops. Select the correct code given below. In order to protect the farmers, and in order to protect the farmers when the market prices of certain goods go less than the market price, the government guarantees a minimum support price so that when the market price for these particular items when these mandated crops go less than the market price, the government will purchase these at the minimum price so that the farmers won't incur any loss. So those crops are called the crops which are covered under minimum support price. Now statement 1 correctly says that the government announces before the sowing season based on the recommendation of CACP. And in the previous question of a different state government service, they had asked about the definition of CACP. The question was CACP stands for Committee for Agriculture Costs and Prices, Commission of Agriculture Costs and Prices. So be careful, it is Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices. So this particular commission, they recommend the MSP values, MSP amount for various crops which are covered under the scheme. And it is the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, the CCEA, who will finally announce the MSP rates, who will take the final decision on the MSP. So if there is a question which says that the Cabinet Commission for Costs and Prices, they announce the final MSP, that will be wrong because they only recommend the prices. Ultimate decision is taken by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Remember that. So there are indeed 22 crops which are covered under MSP, and sugarcane is covered for the FRP. So this is also correct. The first statement is also correct. The crops include 14 Kharif crops, 6 Rabi crops, and 2 commercial crops. So this is also correct. For your examination, please go through what are all crops covered under Kharif, Rabi, and commercial, because you might also get a question saying which of the following crops are covered under MSP or which of the following are not covered under MSP. So select the correct code. All three are correct. So for question number 17, all three are correct. So correct option is C. Question number 18. Consider the following statements regarding the agriculture market system in Odisha. Odisha focuses more on promotion of private investment in creating market infrastructure, contract farming and direct marketing, with an accent of free play of market forces than a strict control regime of regulated marketing mechanism. This statement looks very general and it can stand true for any state government. No state government would want to go for complete regulation. We have come the post-liberalization 1991. So government is going towards privatization, more liberalization, more freedom to everyone. So this can stand correct for any state government for that matter. So this definitely has to be correct. There are 66 regulated market committees operating across 30 districts to strengthen the agriculture marketing mechanism in the state. So this is slightly factual, but there are indeed 66 regulated market committees who operate across 36 districts to strengthen the agriculture marketing in the state. So this is also a correct statement. Which of the following is a true regarding the agriculture market system? So both the statements are true. That makes C as our answer for question number 18. Let us move on to question number 19. Consider the following statements regarding the regulated market committees in Odisha. The regulated market committees are working under the supervision of National Agriculture Producing Marketing Board. Out of the 66 regulated marketing committees, 54 are linked with the ENAM, the Electronic National Agriculture Marketing Portal, and operate as ENAM mandis. Now first, what are RMCs? RMCs are the regulated marketing committees which the Odisha government established under the Odisha Agricultural Produce Markets Act 1956. So the RMCs were established under the Odisha Agricultural Produce Markets Act 1956 for what? To ensure the fair trade practices and to reduce the exploitation of farmers, and they help the farmers in price discovery, that is to get a fair price. They try to increase the market infrastructure in the agriculture markets. They work for the farmers welfare. They look after the licensing and regulations in the agricultural markets, and they also maintain the quality of the agricultural produce, and the grading in the agricultural markets. So these are all the functions of the RMCs which were established under the Agriculture Produce and Markets Act of Odisha 1956. They work under the supervision of the Odisha State Agricultural Marketing Board. So the RMCs which were established under this Agriculture Produce Markets Act, there is a supervisory body for it which is known as the Odisha State Agricultural Marketing Board. And what does our statement 1 say? It says RMCs are working under the supervision of National Agricultural Marketing Board. No, there is a state body for the supervision. There is no national body for controlling the RMCs within Odisha. It is the state body who is controlling these RMCs within Odisha. The first statement is incorrect. Out of the 66 RMCs, 54 are linked with the NAM, the National Agricultural Marketing Portal, and operate as e-mandis. So this is in fact correct. Select the incorrect code. See again, the question is asking about incorrect code. So incorrect is just statement 1. So our correct answer is option A for question number 19. Let's move on to next question. With reference to the Enam portal, consider the following statements. It is an online trading platform for agriculture produce, aiming to help the farmers, traders, buyers with online trading and better get a smooth price by smooth marketing. So Enam is an online portal by the government of India, which was made to connect all the agricultural APMC markets, the APMC mandis, so that the farmer can get better price discovery. Okay, so this statement is correct. Enam provides a single window service for all the APMC related services and informations. We just discussed that. So this is also correct. Using Enam, license for the trader, buyers, commission agents can be obtained from the agents from the state level authorities without any precondition of physical presence or possession of shop. So obviously when it is a online portal, you don't need to have a physical presence of a shop or premises in the market yard. That is done away with. That is the whole purpose of ease of doing business. So this is also correct. So which of the following are correct? So all the three statements are correct. So our option will be all three. Okay. Coming to question number 21. This question is about a scheme of Odisha government again. Consider the following statements. This scheme provides joint crop loans to 4 to 10 members to sharecroppers by forming joint liability groups. It enables sharecroppers to avail of loans from formal credit institutions and reduce their dependence on the informal credit sources. These are the characteristics of which of the following scheme. So it is asking about a particular scheme by giving the characteristics of that scheme. So let us look at it. The Odisha government came up with this scheme called Balaram scheme. Even before we go into this Balaram scheme, let us look at the problem of few agricultural landless laborers. So there are sharecroppers, okay, and there are landless cultivators who cultivate in the land of other landlords by taking the land on lease. Now the problem is when these people approach a bank for a loan, the bank will ask them for any property as hypothecation and hedge. So because they are working in the land of somebody, they don't have the land documents because the owners of the land are somebody else. So now these people don't have anything to pledge with the bank and take a bank loan. So what will happen? They'll go to money lenders, informal credit sources. So these money lenders will take exorbitant interest charges on them and they try to exploit them. So this is the problem of informal landless cultivators. So the Odisha government came up with this Balaram scheme. It is known as Bhumihina Agriculturist Loan and Resources Augmentation Model. So the name itself is Bhumihina. That means in Hindi, Bhumihina is somebody without a land. So Bhumihina Agriculturalist Loan and Resources Augmentation Model. So the main aim of this scheme is to provide collateral-free loans to who? To sharecroppers, landless cultivators. So in order to solve this issue, where we saw that they don't have some collateral to give to the bank. So now the government wants to give them loan without any collateral to these very sharecroppers and these landless cultivators so that they don't rely on the money lenders and directly take the loan from the government. And for this, the government has done what? They have formed few joint liability groups because, like a self-help group, some people will come together here and say five farmers will come together. This will be known as a group. So now this group will give guarantee to the bank on behalf of each other that if farmer one doesn't pay, we'll make sure that he'll pay. So the liability which is there to the bank for the loan, that is jointly shared by these people. So what is happening? The people who are not getting loans, we are getting them together. We are making a group of them. We are sharing the liability of them. We are making the joint liability. So that way, the other four farmers will make sure that farmer one will pay back the loan to the bank. So by making the joint liability groups of 4 to 10 people, the bank also won't be worrying about getting back the loan. Okay. So ultimately, the sharecroppers and landless laborers will get collateral-free loan. So that is the feature of Balaram scheme. So if you look at it here, the scheme provides joint crop loans to 4 to 10 members to sharecroppers by forming joint liability groups, correct? It enables sharecroppers to avail loans from formal credit institutions and reduce their dependence on informal credit sources like money lenders, etc. We discussed that. So that is also correct. So these are the characteristics of which of the following scheme? These are the characteristics of Balaram scheme. So the correct option is option number B. I think in your key answer which you have provided in the PDF, the key is wrongly mentioned as option D. Please correct it to option B. And there is a typo there where they have written it as Balalia scheme. It is not Balalia scheme, it is the Balaram scheme. So the correct option is option B and not D. Okay, please correct it in your PDF. Moving on to question number 22. Consider the following statements with regards to the Odisha millet missions. Government of Odisha launched their flagship Odisha Millet Missions mission in the 2017-18. It focuses on developing a sustainable food system of millets and ensuring nutritional security for vulnerable rain-fed areas of Odisha. Conservation and promotion of millet landraces to seed system of landraces is one of the objective. Which of the following are correct? Now, why do we need millets? Unlike the cereal crops, the millets don't need much water, and the other benefits being they don't negatively affect the environment. They have high nutritional quantities in them, so consuming them will give high nutrition to human beings. So these are all the positive benefits of millets. So that is why the Odisha government launched the flagship Odisha millet scheme in 2017 and 18. So that is a correct statement. It focuses on developing a sustainable food system of millets and ensuring nutritional security for the vulnerable rain-fed areas. Like I said, the millets don't need too much water, so they can be grown even in the rain-fed areas. And because they are highly nutritious, they can be used as a source of nutrition for the vulnerable section in the rain-fed area and to the tribals and everyone. So this also makes logical sense and is connected to the first statement. So this is also correct. So conservation and promotion of millet land races through the seed system of the land races is one of its objectives. So before we go jump into it, we need to understand the concept of what is a plant land race. So when we say a plant land race, so a plant land race is a local variety of a plant that is very well adapted to the local environmental conditions, and the farmers have been growing them from a long period of time. So we can say these plants, when we call a particular plant as landrace, so it means that the plant has, over the period of evolution, over the period of multiple crops, over the generations, it has suited itself to the local varieties, to the local environmental conditions, and is growing there, and the farmers are also growing that crops. And this plant is not alien to the geographical conditions because it is well suited for the local environmental conditions. It can easily grow there. So such type of plants which can which are suited to the local environmental conditions, those are known as plant land races. Now the point says conservation of the and promotion of the millet land races through the seed system of landrace is one of the objectives. Now this scheme would want whatever are the native millet species of plants that the farmers are growing from generations over the period of history. So they have to be conserved because why? These millet plants, this specific species, they are well suited for the local climatical and environmental conditions of Odisha. So they will grow well and give more productivity in such case. And if you don't conserve them, they'll be exploited and they'll be lost. So that is why one of the objectives is to conserve the local varieties who are well suited for the local environmental conditions. So this option is also correct. And that is why which of the following are statements are correct? For question number 22, all three are correct. So our option will be option C. All are correct. Coming to question number 23. We discussed 22. For 22, the option is C. All three are correct. For question number 23, which of the following is the largest employment generating sector in Odisha? This question you should be able to answer without even thinking because we already discussed twice. Almost more than 40% of the people of Odisha are employed in the agriculture and allied sectors, and agriculture and allied sectors contribute almost 22.5 percentage to the gross state value addition of Odisha. So now tell me, which of the following is the largest employment generation sector in Odisha? It is obviously the agriculture sector. So now this statement was put here to show you that from the same data, we could ask three different types of questions. So that is how, if you know the correct facts and data, and if you understood things very systematically and conceptually, however the questions are asked, whether in terms of which is the largest, which is the smallest, what is the value, and asking the fact, you will be able to answer in any way which the question is asked. Okay. Coming to next question, question number 24. The Rourkela steel plant was established with the help of which of the following country? Now let us look at a little bit about information about the Rourkela steel plant. This plant is located in the Sundargarh district of Odisha. So it was established in 1955 as a part of India's efforts to industrialization. So this plant was established with the technical assistance of then West Germany. Germany later got merged into single Germany. Earlier than before that it was divided into East Germany and West Germany. So at that point of time it was West Germany who gave the technical and financial assistance to India to set up this Rourkela steel plant. It is the first integrated steel plant in the public sector which was fully operated by the government of India. This plant was inaugurated as a part of the second 5-year plan. So if you remember, as a part of the first 5-year plan, we focused mostly on agriculture. As a part of the second 5-year plan, we went for industry. So as a part of the second 5-year plan, this Rourkela steel plant was established. So someone can ask a question saying that the Rourkela steel plant was established as a part of which 5-year plan? The first plan, second plan, third plan, fourth plan. So the correct answer is the second 5-year plan. And why was the plant located near Rourkela? Because it is located in a proximity to rich mineral resources, especially the iron ores in that region. And iron ore is a basic raw material for steel production. So that is why the steel plant was started in the Rourkela region. Okay. So the correct answer is West Germany. Let's move on to question number 25. Aluminium Park of Odisha is situated in which district of Odisha? The Aluminium Park of Odisha, it is situated in the Angul district of Odisha. It is a joint venture between the NALCO, the National Aluminium Company, and the IDCO, Odisha Industrial Infrastructure Development Corporation. So the park is strategically located near the National Highway 42 and is very close to the Paradip port. So you can get a different question on this asking it is solely owned by the government of Odisha or the particular department of Odisha. No, it is a joint venture between the NALCO, which is the National Aluminium Company, and the IDCO, Odisha Industrial Infrastructure Development Corporation. So it is a joint venture. Joint venture is something which is started when two different entities come together. They are jointly coming and starting a business. So that is why it is known as joint venture. So the correct option is option B, Angul. Now question number 26. Consider the following statements. Coal constitutes more than 50% of the total mineral production in Odisha. Okay. The entire manganese production in the mostly shared by the Balangir district of Odisha. Iron constitutes about 41% of the total mineral production in Odisha. The question is asking which of the following are incorrect. Now, as we know, coal constitutes more than 50% of the total mineral production in Odisha. There are many coal mines and iron mines in Odisha. So this statement is correct. The entire manganese production is mostly shared by the Balangir district. See, even though there is manganese production happening in the Balangir district, the entire manganese production happening in Balangir district, it is incorrect because there are other districts of Odisha. For example, say the Koraput and Jajpur, the manganese production happens more in these districts. So Balangir district is wrong answer for the entire manganese production. Okay. Iron constitutes about 41% of the total mineral production. Again, this statement is mentioned in the economic survey. So this is also correct. So the question is asking us which of the following are incorrect. How many statements are incorrect? So it is only the statement 2 which is incorrect. So only one which is incorrect. If you look at the economic survey of the government of Odisha, so there is a figure 3.4 in the economic survey which talk about share in major mineral production in Odisha. So there if you look at the share of the minerals, and again there is a chapter 3 of the mineral production in the same economic survey which says that coal and iron together constitute more than 90% of the total mineral production of the Odisha. So if you add both of that statement makes sense. Why I'm specifically telling you this is if you just Google, you will get different statistics because the information can be some from newspaper article, it can be 2 years old, it can be 3 years old, and even the different government departments can have the different data which may not be updated according to the time. So your authentic source for such data is the economic survey and the budget. And when they are asking a question, they'll clearly mention as per the economic survey of this and this year, the coal constitute this much level of production of Odisha. So base economic survey as here source for all such data and don't go by Google. Okay. Let's move on to next question. Question number 27. Consider the following statements with respect to the economy of Odisha. Odisha has one third of the country's total iron ore reserves. It is also the largest producer of steel and stainless steel in the country. As per the economic survey, Odisha is the largest producer of steel and the stainless steel in the country. We just discussed about the Rourkela plant because it is situated in the places where there was iron ore, and that is why that steel plant was there. So all the steel plants in India and in Odisha makes Odisha the largest producer of steel and stainless steel in India. Statement number one. Odisha has one third of the country's total iron ore reserve. That is also true. So, which of the following is correct? Both 1 and 2 are correct. So, for question number 26, option C is the right answer. So, these are all the mineral related facts which come in the economic survey. And Odisha being a state with a lot of mineral resources, you will get questions on mineral resources. So you have to be very carefully making notes about the mineral resources, which is the largest, which is the smallest, which state is the highest producer, what is the place of Odisha in the production of a particular mineral. Because you can expect at least 2-3 questions about the minerals in the prelims examination. Question number 28. Consider the following statements regarding the economy of Odisha. This again is directly picked up from the economic survey. As per the periodic labor force survey report, 0.5% of the total workforce of Odisha is employed in the mining sector. The mining sector does not contribute to the workforce employment in proportion to its high contribution of 8% to state gross value addition. Select the correct code. If you look at here, even though the mining sector is almost contributing to 8% of the state gross value addition, how many people does it employ? Just 0.5% of the total workforce. So even though in terms of value wise, the value mining sector contributes a lot to the Odisha's economy, it just employs 0.5%. So this is a stark reality, a unique fact. So you should be aware about such unique stark realities and stark facts which can come in the exam. So both the statements are correct. It just contributes to 8% and it employs only 0.5% of worker population. So for question number 28, the correct answer is option number C. Question number 29. It's about the National Horticulture Mission. It is a sub-scheme of Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture. It is being implemented by the State Horticulture Mission in selected 16 districts, in selected districts of 18 states and 6 union territories. 98 crore under the National Horticulture Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture by the Odisha government budget allocations 24-25. So this is talking about the horticulture mission and the facts are picked up from the budget 24-25. The horticulture mission wants to develop the horticulture in India. So the National Horticulture Mission is indeed a sub-scheme of the integrated development of horticulture. So that is correct. And this scheme is being implemented in the select districts of almost 18 states, and Odisha has allocated some budget to it in the government budget of Odisha's budget of 24-25. So all three are correct, hence option C is the correct statement for question number 29. Question number 30. Consider the following with respect to Saura Jalanidhi 2024 scheme. This is a scheme of the state government again. Under this scheme, farmers will receive 5,000 solar pumps and 90% subsidy. Saura Jalanidhi Yojana will be benefited for 2,500 acres of state land for irrigation. Odisha budget allocated 275 crore for Saura Jalanidhi scheme. Select the incorrect code. So what is this Saura Jalanidhi scheme? The Solar Jalanidhi scheme, it aims to increase the use of solar energy for benefiting the farmers. So wherever there is open well and the farmer can insert a motor pump there, so they will install a solar panel there and give access to solar energy. So that way many of the solar pumps, they need not be connected to the electricity grid and can standalone work. So this will directly help the farmers. And the state government is installing almost approx solar solar panels for almost across 5,000 solar pumps, and the state government is also giving a subsidy of almost 90%, and this will indirectly benefit almost 2,500 acres and provide irrigation to it. And in the first phase of the scheme, where the farmers do not have access to electricity, the pumps where the grids are not connected to the electricity grid, they will be given the standalone solar pumps, which makes sense. And Odisha allocated some amount to the state budget. So the statement is correct. This is correct. And as per the budget, this is correct. So select the incorrect code. So for question number 30, none are incorrect because all the statements are correct. Again, you have to be careful whether the question is asking for correct or incorrect. Okay. Consider the following statements regarding the Odisha budget 24-25. All these budget questions and the economic survey questions, there is not much to learn conceptually here. It is mostly factual thing, how much is allocated to what scheme and what are the different schemes that the government is launching to alleviate what problems. So you need to be aware of this because they do get asked a lot in the exam. Consider the following statements regarding the Odisha budget 2024-25. The budget has increased by more than 40 times over a period of 24 years. The capital outlay is about 6.8% of GSDP. The revenue surplus is projected at 9% of GSDP. Select the incorrect code given below. So this statement is correct. This statement is indeed correct. And the revenue surplus was 4% and not 9%. So which is the incorrect? Option 3 is the incorrect here. So option B is the correct answer. Next, coming to question number 32. Again, fiscal deficit of Government of India is equal to which of the following? Initially, we discussed that fiscal deficit is the government's total expenditure minus total receipts except the borrowings. So it will tell how much of the government should be borrowing. So what are the options which are given here? Debt creating capital receipts, non-debt creating capital receipts, debt and non-debt creating capital receipts less of revenue receipts. So we know that fiscal deficit shows how much the government should borrow. So it is equal to the government debt creating capital receipts. So debt creating capital receipts is nothing but the borrowing. So fiscal deficit shows how much the government should borrow. So when the government takes a debt from, say, the public or the other multilateral financial institutions, it will create a debt on the government, and because it is for long term, it is known as capital receipt. So hence fiscal deficit will be equal to debt creating capital receipt, and option A is the correct answer. Consider the following statements regarding the Odisha budget 24-25 and select the incorrect given below. Agriculture budget 2024-25 is 19% more than the last year's allocation. Again, this was a factual question. This was not 19%, it was 17%. Total allocation for public health is about 6% of GSDP. The allocation to the public health was 8% and not 6%. 1,500 crore is allocated for the forest sector. Again, this is also wrong. 1,219 crore was allocated to the forest sector. So select the incorrect. All three are incorrect. So all of the above is correct answer. And don't worry about questions like this. If you are very sure about the facts, attempt such questions. If you are not sure of the facts, you can skip such questions if there are one or two. Coming to question number 34. Consider the following statements regarding Barista Nagarika Tirtha Yatra Yojana. So the Odisha government launched this scheme which facilitates free pilgrimage to the senior citizens. So if the senior citizens wanted to visit some pilgrimage centers which are selected by the state government would fund for their travel and make certain arrangements. And under these schemes, obviously few people were excluded, like the income tax payers, retired government employees, because all these people are financially well off. So they are not to be included. Hence, except the income tax payers and the retired government employees, all other remaining senior citizens, they could avail this scheme called the Barista Nagarika Tirtha Yatra Yojana. The scheme itself says Barista Nagarika, senior citizens, Tirtha Yatra Yojana, to visit the pilgrimage center. Tirtha Yatra is going on a pilgrimage to a religious center. So let us look at the options. The scheme was launched by the Department of Tourism, Government of Odisha in the year 22 2023. The senior the scheme is envisaging to help the senior citizens over 50 to 70 years of age to undertake the pilgrimage with the government assistance. Government has allocated 40 crore to this scheme in the budget 2024-25. Again, this question is playing with facts. The scheme was not launched in 2023. It was launched in 2016 by the Naveen Patnaik government. And option 2 which says that it covers the senior citizens of 50 to 70 years. This is also wrong. Here the coverage age is senior citizens of 60 to 75 years and not 50 to 70 years. So even if you read this very clearly, it says 50 years. What senior citizen is at 50 years? So age group of 60 to 75 years. So this statement is also incorrect. The Odisha statement government has allocated some 39 crores and not 40 crores. So this was also incorrect. So the question again is asking for which of the following are incorrect. So all three are incorrect. Hence option C is the correct option. Question number 35. Consider the following statements regarding the Prasad scheme. The Prasad scheme was a central government scheme. The Prasad means pilgrimage, rejuvenation, and spiritual augmentation drive. So the government of India started the Prasad scheme in 24-25. So what was the aim of that scheme? Look at the name, the pilgrimage, rejuvenation, and spiritual augmentation drive. So what will happen when the people go for various pilgrimage centers? There the infrastructure won't be good. There they won't get good toilets or places to rest or places to have bath. So the government is trying to improve the infrastructure of such pilgrimage centers. So that was the main aim of the Prasad scheme, and it was launched by the Ministry of Tourism. So obviously, when see it is all linked, why will the government want to increase the infrastructure? So that the tourism will be promoted and more number of tourists will go to such places. So that is why Ministry of Tourism launched such scheme, because there was lacuna in the infrastructure in such pilgrimage centers. So under this Prasad scheme, the central government would give financial assistance to state governments so that the state governments can invest into the infrastructure in the tourist places. Now let's look at the data. Government of Odisha has allocated 50 crore for the scheme in the budget 24-25. Yes, the government of Odisha has indeed allocated so much as per the budget. The government of India launched this scheme in the year 2014 under the Ministry of Culture. The year 2014 was correct, but the Ministry of Culture part is wrong. So you need to be aware of both the facts in this statement. Even though this was correct, it was launched by the Ministry of Tourism and not Ministry of Culture. So this is incorrect. Now which of the following statements are correct? Only option number 1. Only one is the correct answer for question number 35. Let's move on to next question. In the budget 24-25, almost 1225 crore is allocated for the second phase of Parvati Giri Mega Lift Irrigation Scheme to provide irrigation to additional 2.63 lakh hectares. With reference to this, consider the following statements. The project was launched in 2011-2012, aimed at improving the irrigation to agricultural highland areas. The project is named after Parvati Giri, who is a great freedom fighter and a social reformer. Select the correct answers. So this particular project called the Parvati Giri Mega Lift Irrigation Scheme, it was indeed launched to provide the lift irrigation facilities to the agricultural highland areas. So from the lowland area where the water is available, they will put motors and send the water. This is called the lift irrigation, and to the highlands the agricultural water will be provided so that agriculture can take place there. Hence the name lift irrigation project. And this scheme was indeed named after Parvati Giri, who is a great freedom fighter from Odisha. She is also nicknamed as the Mother Teresa of Western Odisha because of her great struggle in the freedom fight. So which of the following are correct? Both the statements are correct. Hence, option C, both 1 and 2 are correct for question number 36. Question number 37. In the budget 24-25, Odisha government has allocated almost 8% of the state budget to the health sector. With regard, consider the following statements. So one more thing you can observe here. This question is talking about the budget 24-25 allocated 8% to the state health sector. So if you see other question where we were discussing about the public health here. So sometimes the same question paper can have answers to the other questions. So if you read that question, then came back here, if you remember that 8% which was wrongly given as 6% here, this could be answered. So sometimes even with UPSC or the state PSC, you call it your luck or coincidence. Sometimes one question will have another answer for another question. You just have to be aware and be open to, with an open mind, you should be seeing it. In the budget 24-25, the Odisha government has allocated 8% of the state budget to the health sector. Consider the following statements. Rupees 1314 crore is provided for Amma Hospital. Amma Hospital means our hospital. So in order to improve the infrastructure in the hospitals and to ensure the sufficient manpower in the state-run health facilities, the government of Odisha started with the Amma Hospital concept in order to increase the infrastructure, improve the manpower. So the budget allocated so and so amount for the Amma Hospital scheme. So this is correct. Under the Amma Hospital scheme, all the hospitals will be given a new look for the improved patient care and facilities. So I told this was done to increase the infrastructure of the state-run hospitals of Odisha. So this is also correct. All the hospitals will be upgraded in the next 5 years from the period 23-24 to 27-28. Yeah, that is the timeline for this Amma Hospital scheme, where in the next 5 years they want to increase the and update the infrastructure of the state-run hospitals. So this is also correct. Select the correct code given below. Option D, all of the above is the correct answer. Next, coming to question number 38. This is a conceptual question, finally. Consider the following statements. Product taxes and production taxes both are included as a part of GSDP. Net factor income from abroad is equivalent to net of export and import. Product taxes are those taxes on a particular product, say the tax of GST imposed on the production of a particular good. So here the tax will be on a particular item, on the particular product. Hence it is known as product tax. Production taxes are those related to production. For example, if there is any tax which is levied on the entire manufacturing hub or the entire factory, so it is not related to a particular product or quantity, but it is on wholesale the entire land or the factory. So it is related to the entire production. So that is why it is called production tax. So say a state land revenue or land tax, or a tax on a factory building. So these are all type of the production taxes. So now both product taxes and production taxes are part of state GDP. Yes. Net factor income from abroad is equivalent to net of export and import. When we say net factor income from abroad, it means that on one side we are taking the income of all the, say, Indian citizens residing in the foreign country, their income, and we remove all the foreigners who are residing within India, their income. The difference of that is the net factor income from abroad. Now this is talking about the net of export and import. Net of export and import is net exports E minus P. So it is not equivalent to net factor income from abroad. So this is incorrect. Now select the correct answer. Only statement number 1 is correct. So for question number 38, option 1 is the correct answer. Question number 39. Which of the following constitutes investment in the economy of Odisha? Now when we say investment, it should be the investment in the capital goods. Capital goods are land, building. So the capital goods will lead to the production of consumption goods, and it will lead to cumulative production, and thus will lead to the growth of the economy. Or only then we can say investment. Investment is when something which lasts for more than a year and investing into the capital formation and capital goods. That is when we can call investment. If we invest on the operations, okay, say you invested to get the raw materials. You spent money to get the raw materials. We cannot call this investment because there is no putting of money into the capital goods. We'll consume the raw materials in the operation, we'll manufacture the product, we'll sell the good. So this is just working capital. It is not called investment. So there is a difference between working capital and capital investment. So when we use it for day-to-day operations of business, that is known as working capital, where we produce raw materials, we pay the salaries, then we make the finished goods, then sell it. All the money needed for that is working capital. But when we invest into the capital intensive goods, expansion of the project, expansion of the business, expansion of the factory, that is investment. So now look at the question. Investment into the economy of Odisha, which of the following constitutes investment? Production of consumption good. Production is just operation. We'll sell the goods. That is within a revenue year. So is production investment? No, it is not investment. Production of capital goods? Yeah, that is investment. Production of services? Again, this will be consumed within a year. So this is also not investment. Whether it is a good or a service, it is revenue in nature. Buying and selling of shares. Buying and selling of shares is totally unrelated to this question. It is a different activity, economic activity. So that also happens within a particular revenue year. So the only capital aspect here is the production of capital goods. So that is the correct answer. So for question number 39, the correct answer will be option B, 2 only. Question number 40. Consider the following statements. Buying capital equipments are part of the investment in Odisha economy. Capital goods sold out of Odisha are also part of Odisha's investment. Now we just discussed if we invest something into the capital goods, that is part of the investment. Now buying capital equipments are part of the investment in Odisha. Okay, when you get capital equipment into the Odisha and install them and you try to use it for production and goods and services, it is part of the investment of Odisha. True, because you will be using it to produce goods and services within Odisha. So this makes sense. Correct. Capital goods sold out of Odisha are also part of Odisha investment. When you are selling capital goods or any other goods out of Odisha, so it can be considered as your exports because you are selling it outside. They are not inside Odisha, and there will be no further production of consumer goods or further production of goods and services with using these capital goods in the Odisha. We are selling them. So it cannot be part of Odisha's investment. So this is incorrect. So select the correct answer. Only option 1 is the correct answer. Question number 41. In the context of Odisha economy for a sustained high growth? Which of the following statements is true? Raising the investment by keeping the incremental capital output ratio minimum. Raising the investment and incremental capital output ratio both. I think this is incomplete. Increasing the capital output ratio and keeping investment at a constant rate. All of the above. So the question is asking if we want to have a sustained high growth, what we should do. Here it is talking about the concept of incremental capital output ratio. So the capital output ratio is the ratio between the capital and output. So it shows that how much of capital is required to produce one, say, particular unit of output. So if you are using 10 units of capital to produce 1 unit of output, here we have one capital output ratio. But if you are using 20 units of capital to produce the same 1 unit of output, so here we are having a higher capital output ratio. So that means that the capital we are using it inefficiently. So the capital, land, labor, production, organization, all these factors of production and the buildings, equipments, the capital has to be efficiently, productively used for full capacity utilization. Only then we can say that there is efficient usage of capital. If the capital output ratio is high, that means you are using more capital to produce the same output. So that is leading to inefficiency. You are wasting the resources. It is always better if you have less capital output ratio. It would show that you are using less capital to produce the same output. Now the concept of incremental capital output ratio says that the additional unit of capital required to produce the additional unit of output. So if I have to produce one extra unit of one good, how much of additional capital I need? So the lesser that it is, the better, right? If I need only say 5 units of additional capital to produce 1 unit of output versus the scenario where I need 10 additional units of capital to produce the same one output, which is better? Needing only 5 extra units of capital to produce the same one unit of output is better. So incremental capital output ratio, if the ratio is less, it is better because it shows the efficiency in use of capital resources. Now this question talks about two variables. One is the incremental capital output ratio, the other is investment. So the more the investment you raise and the better the ICOR is, that is the lesser the ICOR is, it is better. But if you are raising the investment but the capital output ratio is high, that means whatever investment you are using it, you are not efficiently using it. So the output won't be maximum. So the investment also should increase. The capital output ratio also has to be less. That shows that the capital is using efficiently. So ultimately the investment will lead for beneficial output. Now option A says raising the investment by keeping the incremental capital output ratio minimum. Option B says raising the investment and incremental capital output ratio both. See, in this case what is happening, if I increase the investment, if I increase the incremental capital output ratio, I'm increasing the investment, but I'm also increasing the inefficiency. I'm not using the capital investment efficiently. So will the output rise? In this case the output won't rise. Now here it is saying investment at a constant rate but increasing the capital output ratio. So the investment I'm not making any change, but the capital output ratio I'm increasing. So that means now I need more capital to produce the same output. So in this case also it is not ideal. What will be ideal? I should invest more and keep the incremental capital output ratio to as much as minimum as possible. So that is discussed in the point number A. Raising the investment by keeping the incremental capital output ratio, raising the investment and keeping ICOR minimum. So this is the correct answer for question number 41. So if you have understood the concept, this question is very easy. But if you have not understood the concept of ICOR and how it is related to investment and the impact on investment, this question will be very difficult for you. But if you knew the concept, it is just a 30-second question. Let us look at question number 42. Consider the following with respect to the Mukhyamantri Swasthya Seva Yojana. The Mukhyamantri Swasthya Seva Yojana of Odisha, the aim of it is to provide quality and affordable healthcare to the all the people. So for this, the government has established various medical colleges and PGIs. So let us look at the statements. The scheme is to strengthen the healthcare infrastructure and promote efficient service delivery. Yeah, this is talking about health, quality and affordable healthcare. So this has to be correct. And almost 2,992 crore has been allocated in the budget of 24-25. Again, this is factual part. Look into the budget. So this is correct. So option C, both 1 and 2 is correct for question number 42. Consider the following with respect to mission Shakti. Don't confuse it with the ISRO's mission Shakti. Here we are talking about the Odisha's government scheme Mission Shakti. So in 2001, the Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik, he launched Mission Shakti in Odisha to empower the women of Odisha. So this is talking about the female power, female empowerment. Mission Shakti is a self-help mission for empowering the women through promotion of women self-help groups. So this is a correct statement. It was launched in 2001. It was launched in the year 2001 on the eve of International Women's Day. This is also a correct statement. Almost 2,761 crores was allocated to the Mission Shakti. This is also again factual. Look into the budget. So select the correct code. The correct code is all are correct. Option number C. Question number 44. With reference to the Odisha Millet Mission, consider the following statements. Odisha Millet Mission is a uniquely designed government facilitated multi-stakeholder intervention with a fork to farm approach. When we say farm to fork approach, this concept is related to supply chain. So what is happening if we take about the millets here? So the statement is saying that under this, the government is going for multi-stakeholder intervention with a fork to farm approach or farm to fork approach. So it means that the government is taking steps to increase the value addition in the entire supply chain of millets. So when the millets are produced in the farm, it will be processed. I'll take the example here. When the millets are produced in the farm, then it will go through value addition, processing, then it will go to wholesaler, retailer, then finally it will come to the consumer and the consumer will consume it. So because he is consuming it, we call it fork. People eat with the help of fork. So the phrase farm to fork came in this situation where the entire supply chain, the entire value chain of that particular good is getting considered. So now the Odisha Millet Mission, the government is trying to improve in all the stages at the farm level, at the value addition level, and by educating the consumer about the nutritional benefits of Odisha, the millets. So from the farm, where we are giving benefits to the farmers for cultivation of millets, to processing and value addition, there they are giving to the manufacturers, and ultimately educating the consumers about the nutritional values and benefits about the millets. The government is going for farm to fork approach with respect to millets in Odisha. So this is a correct statement. It focuses on developing food system of millets and ensuring nutritional security for vulnerable rain-fed areas in Odisha. We discussed about how millets can be grown in rain-fed areas because they need less water and they also have good nutritional content. This is also a very logical statement, hence correct. Odisha was recognized as the best performing millet production state. Odisha was recognized as the best performing millet product promotion state award at the National Convention of Nutri-Cereals in 21-22 by the Ministry of Agriculture's Government of India and the Indian Institute of Millet Research. Odisha indeed get this award. We have to select the incorrect statements. So because of all the statements are correct, the incorrect statements will be none. So option D is the correct option. Coming to question number 44. With respect to human capital, What is human capital? Investing into the skills of people so that they can be a good asset for the labor market. It can be investing into the education, it can be investing into the health, so that all this will have cumulative effect and ultimately it will lead to the growth of the economy. Now, state government is providing basic infrastructure and institutional support for enhancing the skill levels and employability of working age population and workers. This question is so generic. Even without reading the statement, you can say this is correct. No statement would do against this. Obviously, every state government will work for enhancing the skill levels and employability of their workers. So this is correct. The Department of Mass Education is entrusted with the responsibility of providing skill development training and strengthening to the human resources. Here there is a catch. It is not the Department of Mass Education, but the Skill Development and the Technical Education Department. So that department was entrusted with the skilling of human resources. So this statement was incorrect. Now which of the following are correct? Only one is correct. So for question number 45, correct answer is option A. Question number 46. In the context of human capital, consider the following statements. Again, factual data from the budget. 150 crore has been allocated for the scheme for Nutana Unnata Abhilasha. If you Google it, you might get a different amount which was allocated to the scheme. But we are going by what was there in the government documents. Now, Nutana Unnata Abhilasha. What does it mean? This scheme aims to increase the skill level of people. It needs to empower the youth of the Odisha. So this scheme mainly focuses on the youth of the Odisha and wants to focus on three things: skilling, reskilling, and upskilling. So if you look at it, all the three look at the same. They look very similar. Skilling, reskilling, upskilling. They the words are also rhyming. Are they same? Technically, they are not the same. If you look at the subtle differences, let us understand through examples. For a person without any skills, we need to provide him skills. Say for a person who doesn't know how to ride a bicycle, if we teach him that how to ride a bicycle, it is skilling him because earlier he didn't have any skill. Now we are skilling him. Now reskilling. Say a person who already has a basic knowledge about that skill, but because of the changes in the market conditions, now we need to go through training and research and development. We need to go through training. So the knowledge transfer has to happen. So that is reskilling. For a person who already has a skill, it's like you are sharpening the knife. Let us take an example of an engineer. So the engineer already knows how to code using C++ or Java. Now if we teach him how to code using Python, which is an upgraded version of all this and which is more used in the market, and this guy, if he learns Python in this case, that is reskilling, because by learning Python coding, he is making himself more relevant for the job market. Upskilling. Upskilling is when you tremendously improve yourself earlier from one level of skill to a great level of skill, so much so that now you just knew coding, but instead of going for C++ coding and to Python coding, you go two steps ahead and you learn how to do coding in AI, or you learn about machine learning, or you learn about big data applications. This is upskilling. It will put you in a better position in the job market. So the government is trying to focus on skilling, reskilling, and upskilling of the youth of Odisha through the Nutana Unnata Abhilasha Odisha scheme. You can use these words even in the introductions, conclusions. If you had observed, even the PM Modi uses skilling, reskilling, and upskilling a lot in his speeches. So according to this scheme, what will happen? Every year, almost 1 lakh students will get skilling, reskilling, and upskilling training through various IITs, polytechnics, etc. And A particular website says that they have allocated 385 crore to the budget, but some other website says that they have allocated 150 crore to the budget. I'll ignore the budget part here. We'll just focus on the concept. So it aims to empower the youth with continuous skilling, reskilling, and upskilling opportunity. Yeah, this is also correct. Under this scheme, scholarship will be available for students under the postgraduate programs in state universities, government and non-government aided college. Which of the following are correct? So for the answer now, I have ignored the Google search and I'm going by the given data. So if we consider this as correct and 150 crore as correct, this is also correct. Option C is also correct. So all the options, all three are correct. Hence option 3 is the correct answer. In which of the following cities World Skill Center is operationalized? The World Skill Center was operationalized in Bhubaneswar. So this is the Advanced Skill Training Institute and it was assisted by the Asian Development Bank in collaboration with the ITES Singapore. So together they set up with the in collaboration with the government of Odisha, they set up an Advanced Skill Training Institute in Bhubaneswar. Coming to question number 48. In the year 22-23, the inflation in Odisha went up compared to the neighboring states. In this context, consider the statements regarding various inflation indices published in the country. WPI does not represent the inflation in services. CPI represents the inflation in goods and services. CPI doesn't represent the inflation in capital and intermediate goods. Select the correct answer using the code given below. Okay. Now let us look at the concept of WPI and CPI. The wholesale price index and the consumer price index are both used as a measures of inflation. But as the name suggests, the wholesale price index measures the inflation at the producer level or the wholesaler level. The consumer price index measures the inflation for both goods and services at the consumer level. Because it is happening at the producer or wholesaler level, this only captures the data of goods and the services are not included in the WPI. Now let us look at the statements. WPI does not represent the inflation of services. True, it only captures the data related to goods. CPI represents the inflation in both goods and services. True, because it is happening at the consumer level, the data for both goods and services which the consumer ultimately consumed is available. So that is also correct. CPI doesn't represent the inflation in capital and intermediate goods. Yes, CPI captures the goods consumed by the consumers. It doesn't show anything about the intermediate goods or the capital intensive goods. So that is also correct. Now the question says, which of the following are correct? All three are correct. So for 48, all of the above D is the correct answer. Question number 49. According to the Economic Survey 22-23, Odisha ranks first in the production of sweet potato, contributing to almost 25% to the national basket. So this is a fact given outright in the Economic Survey, and Odisha is the first in the production of sweet potato, and almost 25% of the whole nation's production of sweet potato comes from Odisha. Odisha is the fourth largest fish producing state in the country. This is also factually correct and given in the Economic Survey. The fish production in Odisha plays a crucial role for the Odisha's economy, and this is projected to rise at the real terms of almost 7.8 percentage, which is more than the national average of 7 percentage. So in the agricultural sector we know contributes almost 22 percentage to the GSVA of the state government. But within the agricultural sectors, the fisheries contribute almost to, and the fisheries employs almost around 46.8 percentage of the workforce. Sorry, this is not the fisheries. The entire agricultural sector employs 46.8 percentage of the workforce. And coming to the data of Odisha being the fourth largest economy, in terms of the fish production. The first state with the highest fish production in India is Andhra Pradesh. Next we have West Bengal. Then we have Gujarat. Then in the fourth place we have Odisha. This data will keep changing every year. So you have to be very careful and you go by the official data, which was the economic survey given in the Odisha. So Odisha is the fourth largest as per the economic survey of Odisha. So which of the following statements are correct? Both the statements 1 and 2 are correct. The last question of the test. Consider the statements regarding the Mukhyamantri Sampurna Pushti Yojana. Mukhyamantri Sampurna Pushti Yojana. So the scheme is about nutrition. In order to improve the nutrition in the state, especially for pregnant mothers, adolescent girls, and children. So all the vulnerable section of the society, like the pregnant mothers, the adolescent girls, and the children who mainly have nutritional deficiencies, they were targeted under the scheme called Mukhyamantri Sampurna Pushti Yojana. So under this scheme, there will be high quality cooked food for children who are in the tribal areas, and the mothers, pregnant mothers, they will be getting nutritional food. Now let us look at the options. It is a nutrition program designed by the state to address the nutritional needs of the population, similar to Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Yeah, this is for the nutritional needs, so it is correct. The program covers individuals, children, adolescent females, pregnant women, and breastfeeding mothers. So we discussed that. That is also correct. 600 crores is allocated for the Mukhyamantri Sampurna Pushti Yojana in the budget 24-25. The amount was 554 crores and not 600 crores. Hence, this statement 3 was incorrect. Now the question you have to be careful is again asking about select the incorrect code. How many are incorrect? Only the last statement is incorrect. So option A is incorrect here. So we have concluded the discussion of this test. So we had a mixed group of questions which are just the conceptual questions. Then we had application based questions. Then we had questions about the sectors and schemes of Odisha. Then we had questions about the minerals of Odisha. Then we had questions from the budget. We had questions from the economic survey. I hope the test was comprehensive enough and helped you. Looking forward for the next test discussion. Thank you so much, students. Prepare well for your exams. All the very best.